Welcome, everyone, to the April Agenda Review meeting. I'm Tim Hill, and beside me is Tasha Blakeney and Amy Brooks. And at this time, I will turn it over to Director Brooks.
Thank you. I just have a few updates on staff activities that I'd like to share with you all. So planning staff are currently supporting the City of Knoxville's Parks and Recreations team. They're updating their master plan. Hopefully you all have heard about this. We help them create their website. And additionally, we are providing them with a web-based interactive map and dashboard that will create a park inventory, as well as some demographic data associated with the neighborhoods being served by each of those parks. And we believe this will be a valuable tool for park staff as they undertake their planning effort, and it leads into the community input process. So after this meeting, I'll send you all a link to the website. They currently do have a survey out, so I encourage you all to take that if you haven't already. And we are also assisting the city's Office of Sustainability with a project called Breathe. We've talked to you all about this before, but they do have a new video up on the Breathe website. It's an overview of the project, what's been accomplished so far, and next steps. It is about a 30-minute video, but it's a great sort of recap of what's been going on over the last 18 months, and I'll send you a link to that as well if you're not familiar with that website. In the next couple of weeks, our GIS team will be conducting some updates to our planning cases map viewer. They've been working on this for some time, which is adding our final meeting plats from the last 15 years to that site. So that'll go live soon. They're also working on our annual development activity report. So it's been drafted and it's headed to our graphics group. And we hope to have that available to you all and the public by the 1st of May. And then directly following this will be our planning, the annual facts and figures brochure. The daycare ordinance that was voted on by this body is moving through the adoption process with County Commission, so they will vote on that this month. We also anticipate a couple more ordinance amendments to be requested over the next couple months. One will be a HIN ordinance and an update to electronic messaging signs for churches in the county. So we will share that with you all when that request is undertaken. So in summary, planning staff has been busy on a lot of projects either underway or nearing completion. Yes? Yeah, so a chicken ordinance or a hen ordinance. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, so similar to what the city has, the county wants to replicate something. Okay. If there's no other questions from me, we'll just get started with the agenda review. Okay, we're going to start off with agenda item number 5 with Ms. Hillman.
Yes, so this is case 8E23OA. This is an ordinance amendment to Article 12.8, the landscape buffer yards, that provides flexibilities and exemptions for buffer yard landscaping. A little background on this amendment has been through several major revisions. The case was tabled in November of 2023. And then heard again in November 2024. At that time, staff recommended denial of all but one amendment. The Planning Commission voted to postpone the case to allow more time for the applicant to have collaborative dialogue with stakeholders and staff as well. And since that time, the applicant did attend a tree board meeting to explain some of the challenges that brought about the amendment request. And plans review and planning staff have had multiple meetings with the applicant to arrive at the proposed amendments before you. So one amendment is the creation of a new Class C buffer yard. The Class A buffer yard is 10 feet, Class B is 20 feet, and this new Class C yard is 5 feet. It has the same plant composition as a Class A buffer yard, but with a reduced width, and the planting viability of that reduced width with the same composition was verified by the city's urban forester as being like a feasible width. The Class C yard includes a condition that when it abuts pavement within the development, such as a driveway, 15 feet of that pavement width must be permeable. And this is intended to address some of the stormwater runoff considerations that are in the purpose statement of the landscape article. Another caveat is that the Class C buffer cannot be reduced when a wall or fence is incorporated unlike the Class A and B buffer, which can be reduced up to 30%. The intent with the Class C buffer yard is that it can be used as a substitute for a Class B 20-foot buffer when developing on exceptionally small lots of 7,500 square feet or less in area or 50 feet or less in lot width. The other amendment in this package is a new section for exemptions and flexibilities. There's a precedent for this kind of approach. You'll see an exemptions and flexibilities section in the off-street parking standards, for example. So in this new section, the requirement for a 20-foot Class B buffer when a non-residential district abuts a residential district is removed if the use in the non-residential district is exclusively residential and no greater than 35 feet in height. This echoes staff's prior approval of the one amendment in the previous amendment package, except it adds that stipulation regarding height to ensure that the scale of residential development is similar to what is permitted in the less intensive residential zones. And then another stipulation is that if the height of a residential development in a non-residential district abutting a residential district is no greater than 45 feet, then a 10-foot Class A buffer can substitute for the Class B buffer. So again, it's a kind of accommodating that scale of residential development, but acknowledging that it's a residential development in a non-residential district. And then lastly, we have that section regarding when a Class C buffer can substitute for a Class B buffer. This is regardless of use, if it's a lot that's smaller than or up to 7,500 square feet or 50 feet in lot width. And there's a clarification that the Class C buffer does not apply to any of the requirements that are specified in the principal use standards in Article 9. So if a certain use that has a principal use standard requiring a Class B buffer in that article is in there, that remains the case regardless of lot size. So there's no conflict in other sections of the zone with this amendment. We did research on the most intensively zoned lots, up to 7,500 square feet where they abut a residential zone, to consider the impact of a buffer yard reduction. There are about 42 lots that met that criteria. Of those, most of them were either very small vacant lots or existing residential lots that just had zoning that didn't align with the existing land use. And in terms of the zones we looked at, it was all of the industrial districts and the highway commercial district. There were only 2 instances where there was a very small lot of an intensive zone that was connected to a larger, more intensive zone. In those cases, the use was already some sort of, like a outdoor storage, something a little bit more intensive, abutting residential, but there was no buffer yard in those 2 instances. So in this case, if anything new happened on those lots, that circumstance would be improved with a Class C buffer. So for those reasons, we didn't feel that there was a significant negative impact to accommodating this Class C buffer across the board. Okay, so these accommodations acknowledge the challenges of developing on small lots, and they make a distinction between constructed development on the ground versus theoretical development permitted by a zoning district. They balance facilitation of development of small lots and residences with a need to maintain the purpose of the landscape article to provide for a natural, biodiverse environment that limits stormwater impact. And I highlighted those sections of the purpose statement of the landscape article. So with these considerations, we do recommend approval of these proposed amendments because they do facilitate the development of exceptionally small lots and residences in the city while maintaining the integrity of the landscape article. And just to reiterate, so with the Class C buffer, the fact that it's the same plant composition as a Class A buffer, the fact that any pavement abutting it has to be permeable, these are some of the considerations that maintain this purpose statement. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
So I may have misread this, but if you had a 75-foot wide lot with a small office on it next to commercial, because that use is still non-residential and it's a non-residential zone, it would still be required to do the, to build the, let's see, Class B buffer, is that right?
So the Class B buffer is only in instances when a non-residential district abuts a residential district. So you just provided an office district and a commercial district?
No, let's say an office zone and someone's got a small one-story office next to residential, and it's 75-foot lots instead of 50-foot, but still small like that. It would still be required to do the Class B buffer, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Jesse, can you, I guess, some clarification. I think you may have already answered it, though, for me. But the impervious area that you're talking about, 15 feet, so it does run just parallel with it, only the length of it and that type of thing?
Yeah, this is just, it's taking into account that, you know, a Class B buffer would have been required in those cases. So trying to reduce the impervious impact of reducing, oh, I knew this would happen. Sorry, my computer tried to sabotage me and update against my will. So Samuel will.
That's okay. I mean, even while you're doing that, I mean, can you give us some examples of impervious, what you would consider impervious?
Oh, this would be based on engineering standards for pervious pavement versus impervious pavement, and I can defer to Joshua Fraze on how that's classified.
So in general, we would look at any pavement as impervious. And as far as I guess were you asking about the 50% pervious?
Yeah, the 15 feet of it. I guess, I mean, is it, pavers, or can it be stone or rock, or just, anything impervious, or what's the intent of that?
Right, so we view sorting through our zoning way of looking things versus stormwater. Typically in the zoning world, we have looked at pavers or like a gravel driveway as 50% impervious. So I imagine that being 50% would not be allowed in this buffer.
So, I mean, you're saying 50 or 15?
15.
So is it 15% or 15 feet?
The requirement is that if there is pavement abutting the Class C buffer,
Right.
15 feet, up to 15 feet of that width must be pervious, however, or permeable, however engineering classifies that in
And
terms of
does
permeable
that
pavers.
15 feet include the 5 feet of the buffer, or is it in
No.
addition to?
It's in addition to. So
Okay.
it's taking into account the 20-foot Class B buffer,
Right.
the 5-foot.
15, yeah, okay. Yeah, I
So-
was just trying to understand what you guys are looking for on what you're considering impervious, or what would be or not be, or what would be acceptable or not, right?
So for permeable, we would consider pavers, gravel, grass pave kind of options.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay, seeing no more questions, we'll move on to agenda item number 7.
So this is another revisited case. So this is item number 7, 11H24RZ. The applicant requested a rezoning from RN2 to RN4 on a 5,500 square foot lot near the Western Heights community in the Beaumont neighborhood. It is in the middle of a block on Emerald Avenue surrounded by RN2 zoning, and it's in the traditional neighborhood residential land use classification. Staff are recommending denial of this rezoning because it does not align with the intent of the zoning ordinance. While there are changing conditions in this area that support more residential intensity, with the ongoing transforming Western Heights development nearby. More residential development is already achievable here through the middle housing standards, which would permit a duplex or consideration of a duplex, triplex, or fourplex on this lot according to the dimensional standards with its current RN2 zone. This lot is already non-conforming with its RN2 base zone because it does not meet the 50-foot minimum lot width requirements. So continuing to upzone lots that are already not meeting their current zoning standards for lot area or width opens the door to manipulation of Article 17.3, which allows non-conforming lots of record to be used for any permitted or special use within that zoning district. A key difference between RN2 and RN4 is that RN4 permits more than one principal use, so approval of the requested RN4 district paired with the middle housing standards, which do apply here because it's a TDR area, could result in 2 middle housing structures on a lot that's, just over 5,500 square feet. This is not consistent with the intent of the zoning code. It is incompatible with the policies of our adopted general plan. I know last time the applicant handed out development plans to kind of demonstrate intent. We as staff strive not to be swayed by any one developer's vision and instead consider the ripple effects, the precedent set, and the clear criteria established for considering a rezoning, which must all be met for approval. Since that time when the case was postponed, the middle housing report did come out, and this property was approved for a duplex. The applicant had originally proposed a fourplex on this property, which could have been approved. It had some revisions that were needed, which are very similar to the revisions that were needed before this duplex was approved. But again, middle housing enables significant residential infill development on this lot under its current RN2 zoning. And for that reason, RN4 is not necessary, especially since it does not meet the dimensional standards for RN4 or RN2. I'm happy to answer any questions on that one.
Jesse, can you explain a little more why? So did he apply for a duplex? Did he want a duplex or he wanted a fourplex and you guys wouldn't?
No, so originally a fourplex was applied for. Some minor revisions were requested, and instead he came back with a duplex application, which also needed some minor revisions. Those revisions were made and then it was approved. But a fourplex could have occurred on this site under its current RN2. And what's visually shown here is, 2 stacked duplexes, which would, in theory, be permitted under RN4 because there's 2 principal uses that can occur on the same lot. So this provides just kind of a demonstration of potential scale of development. And we maintain that RN2 with the middle housing standards provides sufficient residential intensity.
Okay. We'll move on to agenda item number 8. This is also Ms. Hillman.
So this is 4A 2425 RZ PA and SP. This is a request to rezone a 5.92 acre property, or 2 lots, on Rutledge Pike from general industrial to heavy industrial. This requires a plan amendment from general to heavy industrial as well. I've been informed that the applicant intends to postpone at the meeting, so I won't go into great detail on this one, but the recommendation by staff is to deny the request because it's incompatible with neighboring residential development. The primary changes and conditions in this area have been the development of kind of a duplex townhouse community as that you can see in the northeast there. So there's been more residential intensity that is very close to this property, even though it is separated by a railroad. For this reason, we hold that heavy industrial uses are incompatible with the very close residential development in the Spring Hill neighborhood here. And that's the basis for denial of the plan amendment and the rezoning. But again, I believe this will be postponed. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Move on to number 18.
This is for U25RZ, for F25PA, for F25SP. This is a request to rezone and amend the land use classification on a 13-acre property on Boyd's Bridge Pike in East Knoxville from RN1, single-family residential, and LDR, low-density residential, to RN3, general residential, and MDR, medium-density residential. The original request was for RN5 zoning, but that was amended to RN3. As you can see, this property is surrounded by mostly RN1 zoning, and the property contains significant sections of hillside protection overlay, and there's mature tree canopy throughout the lot. Similarly, the area is surrounded by the LDR designation, so MDR would be an outlier in this area. In the aerial image here, I'm zooming in on a 5-way stop sign intersection, which is almost a 6-legged intersection considering the close proximity of Riverview Drive, which terminates to the northeast. These are not roadway conditions that are designed to support a significant increase in residential intensity. And you can see the case boundary nearby to the northwest. Staff are recommending denial of the plan amendment and rezoning because it is incompatible with surrounding development. There are no changes, no physical changes of conditions in this area that support a plan amendment. And development under RN3 would be out of character with the surrounding area and the wooded context. Most importantly, the roadway infrastructure here is not designed to support more intensity at this time. There is a capital improvement that's due to be bid out for design that would provide sidewalk infrastructure along this section of Boyd's Bridge Pike, but it's unknown when that will occur, and that will connect it to Brooks Avenue sidewalk infrastructure, which does lead to downtown. We acknowledge that in the report, but existing conditions do not support more residential intensity, and the vehicular component with the significant curve where this property accesses Boyd's Bridge Pike, and some of those, there are other intersections in this area similar to the one shown here, where there are stop sign intersections that have, that are prone to conflict. And for these reasons, a significant increase in residential intensity is not supported at this time. I'm happy to answer any questions on that.
Seeing no questions, we'll go ahead and move forward to number 33.
This is 2H25RZ, 2A25PA. This is a request to rezone an 18.5-acre property in the Carnes community from agricultural with a bit of general business zoning along Oak Ridge Highway to planned residential with a density of up to 12 dwelling units per acre. The plan amendment request is for about 3/4 of an acre of the rear southeast corner of the lot that is currently designated with the rural conservation place type. They requested an amendment to the traditional neighborhood place. They requested that this be amended to the traditional neighborhood place type, which is the place type for most of the remaining property. Originally, this property's primary address was on Gray Hendricks Road, which is a local residential street, which the property accesses through a narrow, privately maintained road that you can see at the western corner of this property, kind of. The case was postponed a couple times while the applicant pursued a land swap agreement with a commercial property on Oak Ridge Highway, which enabled direct access to that major arterial street and changed the property boundaries. Most of the property is zoned agricultural, and the surrounding zoning is agricultural, residential, and commercial along the Oak Ridge Highway corridor. In the place type map, you can see that most of the property is designated traditional neighborhood with some corridor mixed use along Oak Ridge Highway. And then there's that small portion of rural conservation highlighted there in the rear. The plan amendment request is to change that to TN. And the RC place type here is based around the Beaver Ridge line to the south. In the aerial, you can see how this property comes up against the Beaver Ridge, which remains a wooded natural feature of the Karnes community. Staff recommend denying the plan amendment for the RC portion of this property because it is appropriately placed in consideration of the tree line and steeper slopes leading to Beaver Ridge. Place types aren't necessarily intended to conform with property boundaries, but rather with the surrounding context and principles of the comprehensive plan. This placement is consistent with Policy 2.3 to provide protections for ridges, views, and open spaces. This only reduces the area that can be considered for PR by 0.7 of an acre, and staff are recommending approval of the rezoning for the remainder of the lot that has the TN and CMU place type on the condition that primary access beyond Oak Ridge Highway and access to Gray Hendricks Road be reserved for emergency use only. Gray Hendricks is a narrow local street with no shoulders, and it has a sharp sloped curve just to the south of this property's access point, which limits sight distance. With the condition, PR zoning here up to 12 dwelling units an acre is supported by the future vision of the comprehensive plan and the numerous residential amenities in the immediate area. These include Karnes Elementary and Middle School, which you can see to the west there, a public library across the street to the east, and Karnes Community Park to the east. There's also service-oriented commercial amenities along the Oak Ridge Highway corridor. I'm happy to answer any questions on this one.
I did have a quick question. So you had mentioned, I guess, that the line between the rural and the traditional neighborhood, it doesn't necessarily follow, excuse me, doesn't have to follow property lines, but what is that? I mean, are they trying to be at the toe of the slope, or where it's, because it's a bit arbitrary to me, because I was looking it up because I thought it was curious how that line was going through there, because the majority of them are on the property lines, and until you get into some slopes, but I just pulled up the topo on it to just try to understand it a little better, but just for mine, it looks to me like it's like 15% grade, which is still, it's on the upper end, but it's not necessarily even in the hillside yet, technically. So I guess my question is, why would the rural be on a 15% slope versus a 20? Are you following my question?
Yeah. I mean, you can see as well that the CMU corridor, breaks up some lot lines as well. It's more based on the context of where commercial development was considered appropriate. Similarly, the rural conservation place type is based on features like slopes. You'll see that there is hillside protection, area within the RC place type on this lot. And it does generally conform with, if you look at the USGS map on KGIS, it conforms with where the Beaver Ridge is, which remains a forested natural feature of this area. So we found that there were no changes in the landscape, this wasn't a result of an error in the plan. It's consistent with how this RC place type is generally placed throughout the county, which is based on natural features and not necessarily, lot lines.
Yeah, no. I follow you. It's a bit arbitrary to me. I mean, that's just my opinion, though. But I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm just a little confused on the denial of TN. That's just for the proposed plan is to change to TN for the RC portion only? And so the denial is just for that portion?
Yes, the highlighted portion there is the only plan amendment component, and that's the part that is recommended for denial. The rezoning to PR for the remainder of the property, where it does align with the TN and CMU place type, is recommended for approval.
Okay.
Jesse, we had talked about adding agenda item number 11. Did you want to go ahead and tackle that one now.
Yeah, we received some more recent opposition to this, so added it to the agenda. This is a city rezoning request and plan amendment request for a 2.76 acre property at 4423 Ball Camp Pike. The request is to go from RN1 and LDR to RN3 and MDR. Staff are recommending approval of this rezoning and plan amendment because there have been capital improvements in this area since the adoption of the sector plan in 2015. In 2016, sidewalk infrastructure was expanded along Western Avenue, which is nearby to the south, and additional capital improvements are planned to occur, which you can kind of see in the orange highlight circle to the southeast. More capital improvements are planned to occur, which will further enhance pedestrian and bike accommodations in this area. This property is not accessed through residential streets, but rather has direct access to Ball Camp Pike, which is a collector street. It has sidewalk access across Ball Camp Pike to a bus stop on Western Avenue, and there are accessible service-oriented commercial amenities there as well. So with these considerations, staff are recommending approval of this rezoning and plan amendment. I know that's a lot of layers, but I'm showing the, the CAT route, which has 2 bus stops leading from a sidewalk from this property to Western Avenue. There's additional bus stops nearby to the east. This is showing future capital improvements and also existing sidewalk infrastructure.
Thank you, Jesse. So now we're going to move on to agenda item number 53. We'll let Samuel get hooked up here. We've also received a lot of comments on this one as well.
Thank you, Amy. The request is for 2 houses on individual lots in the PR zone. The lots are part of the Park at Babley subdivision, which is located 0.85 miles east of Washington Pike. Washington Pike is marked in yellow on that image, and Babley Road is marked in blue. We have not published our staff report yet for this case. The applicant may submit a revised application later today. We are including this on the agenda, like Amy mentioned, because we have received numerous notice of opposition from the residents and homeowners association of the subdivision. The request is for 2 houses on lot 72 and lot 73 of the subdivision. These 2 lots were part of the common area that is to the west and was subdivided into separate lots in 2018. No development plan application was submitted prior to the minor subdivision in 2018. The homeowners association is in opposition of approving house on lots that were once part of the common area. Looking at the zoning map, the lots are zoned PR at 4 dwelling unit per acre. The addition of 2 houses would need to comply with the maximum allowable density. It's not annotated on the map, but the northern part of the subdivision is zoned at PR at a 5 dwelling unit. That is a separate zoning boundary. The property is classified as suburban residential place type in the Knox County Comprehensive Plan. Detached dwellings are considered a primary use in this place type. From aerial image, we can see almost the entire subdivision is built with only a few remaining vacant lots. The subject parcel abuts 3 houses on the north side, and as mentioned before, it abuts the common area as well as the detention basin to the west. Our final recommendation is pending, depending on what we receive from the applicant today. They may postpone the case to the May meeting But we think that detached houses would be compatible with other single-family residents in this subdivision, and it is consistent with the comprehensive plan implementation policy too.
Okay, we're going to move on to agenda item number 44.
This is a rezoning on 14.13 acres from agricultural to planned residential up to 4 dwelling units an acre. It's located in Halls, the east side of Hill Road, north of Cabbage Wing. The surrounding properties have been transitioning from the agricultural zone to the RA low-density residential zone and PR to up to 3 dwelling units an acre since 1985. Most of the surrounding subdivisions are single-family residential with some attached houses. PR is intended to provide flexibility for different types of residential development and encourage more imaginative solutions to environmental problems. There are some steep slopes on the property which make the PR zone appropriate to consider. Suburban residential areas are appropriate for primarily single-family residential development with lot sizes generally less than 1 acre. These areas may feature a range of lot sizes and housing size and styles. This property is within the planned growth boundary, and the suburban residential follows planned growth, and the rural living place type follows the rural growth boundary. There is a TVA easement that runs through the property. It's approximately 150 feet wide, so no structures are allowed within the easement. The recommendation is to approve the planned residential zone up to 4 dwelling units an acre because it's consistent with the comprehensive plan in the surrounding area. Are there any questions?
Okay, thank you, Whitney. We'll move on to your next one, agenda item number 45.
So this is a rezoning on 10.46 acres from agricultural to planned residential up to 7.5 dwelling units an acre. It's located on the south side of Millertown Pike, east of Presnell Road. So the PR zone is appropriate on this property because there's a blue line stream on the property, which allows the clustering of lots. And houses, duplexes, and multi-dwelling structures are allowed in the PR zone, which is consistent with the surrounding development. While a lot of the properties in the immediate area are zoned agricultural, many of them are non-conforming to the minimum 1 acre lot size because they were created prior to this zoning ordinance. Most of the lots are, all these smaller lots are approximately 0.25 acres. This property is within the suburban residential place type. When the proposed district is partially related to the place type, one of 3 conditions shall apply. One of these is that the proposed zoning is compatible with the current zoning of adjacent sites. So we're recommending PR up to 4 dwelling units an acre here. We think that's more compatible with the current PR up to 4 dwelling units an acre of the adjoining site to the east. So in this case, this property is within the urban growth boundary with the rural boundary across the street. The recommendation was to approve planned residential up to 4 dwelling units an acre because it's consistent with the comp plan and change of conditions. Are there any questions?
Have you had any discussions with the applicant regarding 7.5 versus 4 units at all?
Yes, they said they didn't quite need 7.5, but I think they need closer to that than to 4 dwelling units an acre for what development they want to do.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, so this next item, we've added at the request of Commissioner Adams, just to provide an opportunity to ask any additional questions. This is number 46, it's 4X25RZ.
I was trying to, sorry,
That's okay.
I was trying to pull open KGIS, but I don't.
Yeah, we don't have a formal presentation on this one. Let's see, I'll pull it up too.
Does it drag? That one? Okay.
This one's along John Sevier
Yes.
Highway.
So I don't have a formal presentation. The request is to go from agricultural to CA, the general business zone. It's within the CMU place type on John Sevier. And we are recommending approval of CA. And it's kind of generally an industrial and commercial office use area. The lot is currently forested, kind of with some wetlands over here on the east side. I don't know if there was any specific questions.
You just mentioned the wetlands on the east side. Does that preclude any kind of activity there because of the wetlands, or
I don't know,
does it?
engineering, what's the requirement?
Yeah, yes, any work in that area would require a U.S. Army Corps of Engineer permit, so that they couldn't fill it or work in it without a permit from them.
Yeah, it does look like it's been disturbed in the past, and looks like it kind of followed where the wetland was, that part remained undisturbed. So, but no, it doesn't look like anything was ever built.
I believe there would also be a 25-foot buffer around the wetland that would be do not disturb.
Okay, that's all the ones we have identified. Are there any other items that you all wanted to discuss before we conclude today?
Yeah, Amy, I'd like to ask about agenda item. I think it's Samuel's. I know they were requesting several things, including a rezoning to CG1. You know, I know that property had just recently been developed. I think planning had granted a special use a few years ago. I didn't know kind of what, do you know more information about
Yeah.
the reason for all that?
This one is, the applicant has requested postponement, so they did request after our deadline. So it will have to be voted on at the meeting, but they are considering some other options, which include probably, potentially another residential zone, because we are recommending denial on this one. So there's still kind of yet to be determined on what they might come back with, but they have requested that you all vote on a postponement in 30 days.
Okay.
Are there any other ones?
We're adjourned.